Louisiana Derby coming up on Saturday at the fairgrounds. The sister race is the Fairgrounds Oaks presented by Facing Tipton. It is the start of the championship series. Joe Kristufek and Scott Shapiro. And Scott, a field of five going postward here, but three of them are likely to vie for favoritism.
I think so, Joe. I think Pretty Mischievous, Hoosier Philly, and the Alice Look are the three that you're speaking of in here. And I think the story of this road to the Kentucky Oaks so far has been a little bit underwhelming efforts from the horses we expected to run best. Looking forward to seeing how Hoosier Philly rebounds in her second start off the bench. Pretty Mischievous really has done very little wrong other than losing to Hoosier Philly once as a 2-year-old. But I think it's a little more wide open than just those three.
So you've got Pretty Mischievous and you've got the Alice Look, who won the Silver Bullet Day. Both have consistency on their side. The horse that had the potential star power, we'll start with her, Scott, is Hoosier Philly, who you mentioned. She was a perfect 3 for 3 in her career. She didn't have to try to win any of those races. And trainer Tom Amoss was gushing over her, thinking that maybe a run at the Louisiana Derby might be in the card. She was actually offered in a Kentucky Derby future wager pool earlier this year. Now, she did not run well in the Rachel Alexandra, contrary to expectations. She finished third, but she might have had a little bit of an excuse.
She definitely did not have a great voyage. She came out of the gates shortly after she got out of the gate. She hopped a little bit, lost a few lengths, stumbled, if you will, and then was kind of in a, as you like to say, claustrophobic spot. You know, the race was a pretty slow, moderate early tempo, and she just wasn't really overly comfortable. Now, I can make an excuse for her in that fashion, but when she did find clear sailing when they turned for home, she just didn't have any run. And if you're going to be considered a great horse, you know, I think you can overcome some trouble and get beat, but get beat in a much more impressive fashion than her. So I'm going to be taking a chance against her. I know she can rebound. I know she's got a lot of talent and appears to have a lot of class, but I can't be overly forgiving of that effort.
Yeah, she just never had a chance to really get comfortable in that race whatsoever. Never had a chance to find her rhythm. Kind of a bigger, more free running filly. And I think the fact that she's got that outside post in a compact field of five is only going to help her. She seemingly trained well in between races. And I'm willing to give Hoosier Philly another chance. Pretty Mischievous, model of consistency. Like I said, Scott, she won the Rachel Alexandra pretty convincingly at a nice price of 8-1. She's not going to be that kind of price this time around.
No, she's not, Joe. And she's 4 for 5 at this point. The only loss came in the Goldenrod to Hoosier Philly. And that's probably the big reason why she was 8-1 in the Rachel Alexandra, because Hoosier Philly handled her for absolute fun. But this is a horse that's very tactical. You can put her wherever you really want. Doesn't need the lead, but can sit real close if she needs to. Can take a little bit be a little bit further off if the pace is hot. She's very honest, and I think she's going to run her race, unlike Hoosier Philly, who I think is kind of, you know, has a high ceiling but maybe a low floor in this race. But both of them are going to be too short of prices for me to endorse.
Pretty Mischievous defeated the Alice Look pretty handily in the Untappable. Then she skipped the Silver Bullet Day, a race that the Alice Look won over her favored stablemate Chop Chop, who came back on the turf and did not run well in her subsequent start after not running well in the Rachel Alexandra. So that race is kind of tough to gauge, but it's this time around where the Alice Look comes in as the fresh horse.
She does. She didn't race in the Rachel Alexandra, which we've spoken about, giving her more time coming in. And she's a very honest filly, a daughter of Connect that can run on the lead. Another one that could be on the lead or could sit a little bit off the pace. I just wonder if she's a cut below the top tier in this crop, which we don't really know how good this crop is because, like I mentioned earlier on, they keep disappointing. But another horse that I expect to run a race, but might be a little bit too short of a price for me.
Miracle almost wired the Rachel Alexandra for Todd Pletcher, and she was a little bit of a price shot, but she had a tactical advantage. The same can maybe be said for Christian Dioro coming in for Steve Asmussen, who just laid eyes on her for the first time the other day, first start for this barn after being trained by Todd Fincher. You give her any kind of a chance, obviously she should be able to make the lead at least.
You would think so. That last race was very weird at Sunland on February 28th. She lost to her stablemate, who was 1-5, and just an oddly run race, was not sent with any sort of aggression by the jockey out there at Sunland. And I would expect her to be sent much more aggressively, although Joel Rosario, not necessarily a guy that always uses those type of tactics, but on any pace projector, and if you look at her sprint races, she does make the most sense to set the early fractions.
Perhaps in this compact field of five, at least from how you're viewing it, I saved the best for last year, Scott, because South coming off a dominant 8-length performance. It was the other Norm Cassie that was getting bet that day, but it was South who was dominant, drawing off in the end, and made a slow advance to the lead, made the front end pretty much on her own, and did run away pretty convincingly, galloped out in front. Maybe this is the horse with the upside.
Yeah, she had surgery before her last race, and it obviously led to significant improvements, myectomy, for those horse biologists out there, equine biologists. But it was also the first time getting LASIK, so that is a little bit of a concern. But that move that she made normally up the inside on the backstretch is a move that leads to what we would call moving too early. But in this case, she just continued to go. Now, I have questions about the quality of that field, but she buried them. And I do remember it was the day before the Risen Star card, and we kind of thought a lot of that field going in, so I don't want to hold that field against her. She won by 8 lengths. She reportedly has been training very forwardly, Joe. I think she's going to run a big race on the class hike here. This is a horse they've always thought a lot of. Maybe we can get a career best effort. 8-1 on the line. I'll be happy to get 4 or 5-1.
One last quick question here. Pretty Mischievous, the Alice look, they are the consistent ones, and they look the best on paper. But does Hoosier Philly go favorite again?
I think so. That's the thing about it, is it's not that, the excuses for Hoosier Philly are there from the last race, but that's the kind of horse I want to get 4 or 5-1 on. I don't want to take as the favorite, and she's just such a steam horse. People can make excuses for her. I think she's the kind of horse that is going to go off favorite again, slightly over to Pretty Mischievous.
All right, well, Scott's going to go with South the horse with some upside on top. And I'm one of those believers. I haven't given up on Hoosier Philly just yet. I'm going to give her another chance. And don't forget, this is the third leg of the Bayou Bluegrass multi-track pick 5, along with Turfway Park, the Louisiana Derby, and the Jeff Ruby Stakes included in this wager. And there's a great promotion at Twin Spires, the Bayou Bluegrass $5,000 hit it and split it. Make sure you opt in. For Scott Shapiro, I'm Joe Kristufek. Enjoy the 15-race Saturday Louisiana Derby Day program at the fairgrounds.